Okay, take number three. I don't know how many times. I'm continuously, never ending, trying to find a place to make a video on Lake Ethelon where there is no sudden eruptive noises. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham and I've lived in 114 countries. And it's taken me 25 years to go to all these countries. And I don't really have a home, okay? My home is on the road. Okay, but I'm going to talk today about campsites in the United States. And what I did is I went to Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and they have a website where I can actually, I signed up, did all this stuff, did everything, and it's pretty good website. It's a little confusing, but after a while I finally learned it. And what it does is it allows me to make, as I understand, a 14-day reservation in different state parks through the state of Indiana. And I have a really good one called Pokagon State Park, which is in Angola, Indiana. Angola, Indiana. That's where I was born. Okay, and it is a really good state park, and it doesn't. Well, it has non-electric camping. It doesn't have actually what they call primitive, but the Chain of Lake State Park is over by Albion, which is also pretty close. And then we had, we have two or three difficult. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get kind of in a way where one of my three sisters could drop me off there and leave me. And they all seem to have a general store. What I haven't been able to figure out is, do they have something to do besides just sit there and look at the trees? Now they seem to be really pretty good. I'm not sure. They all seem to be encouraging dogs, which is not exactly what I want. I don't need more dog noise. I'm not worried about the dogs in the United States biting me, but I am worried about the noise because dogs bite and they can yap, right? And they seem to have more rights than a human. Okay, so, but Pokagon State Park, which is a really good one, has Pokagon, has Potawatomi Inn, which is really quite nice. It's actually where we had 42 relatives of mine come for when we celebrate Mom's death, Mom Graham's death. And it was 42 of us, right? It's a really great place, and I used to take Mom Graham there quite a bit. And but I'm not really sure about the beach. And there's Chain of Lakes, which has a lot of lakes, but again, I'm not quite sure about the lake. And I did my normal search. What you do to find out the value of a beach is you go search for beach, Pokagon State Park beach, then say bikinis. And if there's a lot of photos of everybody laying around basking in the sun, then normally it's a pretty good beach. But that doesn't seem to be the case on either Chain of Lake or I think Indiana Dunes, maybe it would be good, but that's so far away that it would be very difficult for my sisters to just drop me off. And what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to be that uncle or that brother that comes in unannounced and stays forever, right? It's like I'm film, right? There's a movie about this kind of thing. There's a lot of them where the relative comes and you just can't get them to leave, right? And I don't want to be that person. Okay, and there's a park in Johnny Appleseed Park in Fort Wayne that could be a lot of fun, because then I could go all over Fort Wayne and I could go to the libraries. Really what I want to be able to do is go to the libraries. And if I'm in any of the state parks, unless I have a car or a motorcycle or something, I can't really go to the libraries. I might be able to take an Uber, but it's going to be like, $20 round trip, which just ruins everything. But the cost of a campsite, there's two different costs. Both of these state parks has like a base price for electric at $23 a night for camping. I don't know what it is. I didn't really check it out for a motorhome, but $23, and I already have a tent. I was going to go trying to get Tiffany to come travel with me, and had a tent that I could hopefully stand up, or just a little bit short of standing up. It's quite big. It's probably a 4-man tent, and It's about as big as Henry David Thoreau's cabin on, well, he liked to call it a house or a home on Walden Pond. He didn't really like to call it anything less than that. That was kind of an insult. And it was a home. And so I'm trying to set up a home inside the United States in a tent. And I would really, it'd be really nice if I had a tiny home, but the problem is that the commitment to this is really not what I want. And the truth is, I could go build one and make one, and I could develop a whole edition and all sorts of stuff, but I don't really want to work, right? I want to use my brains, but I don't want to use my back. And truthfully, I don't really want to be inside the United States while it's winter. I want to be there enjoying just the fall and the spring, because the fall and the spring inside the United States, especially in Indiana, is paradise. I mean, Indiana has an overabundance of water, obviously, and I think in Steuben County we have, where I grew up in Orland, we have 101 lakes. And in the summer, normally when I was in Fort Wayne, I was a member of the Crow's Nest Yacht Club. It's on Lake Wawasee, which is one of the most expensive lakes in the Midwest, which the cost of joining the yacht club was a lot cheaper than buying a house. So it's a very wise move to live on a boat on Lake Wawasee. But, everything is increasing in cost. And I want to tell you, right now, the cost for me to live in an electric spot is roughly, for 28 days, is roughly $800. For 30 days, here, the cost of shelter, which is a private room with a shower, with high-speed internet, with, even a color TV, hot water, everything you want, is like $180. And say for about $210, I can have breakfast included. Okay, so there's some word that I've been looking for many, many years, because a lot of people do not equate the cost of enjoyment. How much does it cost to enjoy my life? And it's radically cheaper to live outside the United States and enjoy my life more than I can. So how much enjoyment do you get for the money? Okay. And I'm not on vacation. I'm going to try to live in one of these state parks. And it's, on the other side is, I think I should do at least 14 days, no matter what, as a test run. I can stand 14 days, but I don't know. I'm going to test out by staying near Kendallville. My sister has 5 acres, and they actually even, I think, have a little river on the thing. And I could live there, but it's about 5-mile walk to Kendallville, which is a little onerous. But I think walking from the campsite to the beach is almost 1.5 miles. So you can see there's a lot of, the whole United States culture is wrapped around the car, and the ability to go to the Walmart and fill up your car with groceries. That's why Americans are fat, okay? We, contrary to East Europe, they can't do that. They don't really have the parking, so they barely ever go more than 1 bag full of groceries. In America, we stock up and we constantly live with temptation, okay? And I haven't yet to meet anybody that could actually not fall victim to temptation. Everybody just goes from temptation to I do. But the way to deal with temptation is to not have it. You don't manage temptation. The way to deal with temptation is you don't get led into it, okay? You don't sign up for it. A lot of people act like they somehow have willpower over temptation. I think that's just silly. I've been sober now for 37 years, and February 12th. Oh, I just realized March 1st, I've been traveling nonstop for 26 years. Today is the celebration of my 26 years of nonstop moving, not having a home, okay? And to me, travel is, the minute you leave your house, you're traveling. And travel is high-speed living. So the minute you leave your house, you're traveling, and you're dealing with the same kind of similar things to me. The farther you go from your house, the more complicated it gets, and the more expensive it gets, and the more confusing it gets. And strangely, there's 200 countries on the planet where it's about, I don't know, 5 to 10 times cheaper than the United States or Western Europe, or Australia, New Zealand, and whatever. But the life is changing. Booking.com and Airbnb is causing major inflation around the planet, and I hope they outlaw these things. I hope country by country they slowly outlaw these things, because what they do is they're an unfair sort of, and you can't complain about it. It's a monopoly type thing, and it's monopolizing the mentality of the humans, and it's really destroying the planet. Okay, but I'm Andy Lee Graham, and camping is $800 for $400 for 2 weeks, $800 for 28 days. And here it would be right around $200 for a private room, and you don't have to deal with all that crap, right? You got electricity, you got everything. And I find that almost anywhere I go in 200 countries, I can find accommodation for right around $10 a day. It's kind of rising up. Maybe it'd be easier to say right around $12. But the averaging thing is that, like right now, I'm paying less than $10 a day. I'm paying $200, so I don't know, like say $7 a day for my shelter. And the necessities of life are heat, shelter, food, and transportation in a way. And I really, for sure, know that I want to thank Henry David Thoreau for introducing me when I was age 16, when I was still not working full time, and had a bias to believe that I had to work. Okay, when I was 16, I didn't think that people needed to work. Now I understand that 90% of the people cannot agree with Henry David Thoreau because they would have to quit their job. Okay, but he said basically that you could work 1 day a week or 6 weeks a year and have all you need if you only try to have what is necessity. And for sure, I know that my big problem inside the United States, I could go live on a farmer's property or something, probably for a lot cheaper than Pokagon State Park. But the problem is the enjoyment of life. The United States is such a sprawling country that the distance to get to a city from a farm can be at least 5 to 10 miles. And this is too onerous. We don't have any public transport outside the United States. But the idea of camping in Norway, so far, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Scotland, Ireland, and some of these countries where I can camp because of the right to roam, or the everyman's right, this idea that you can, doesn't seem to be so true so far. They're seeming like they're limiting it to 2 days. But I do know that there's probably places where I could stay. I do know that I could probably stay in Ukraine, in Odessa. They were camping out there in the kind of the woods area. But the question is, how long before I get hassled by the police? And that is always going to be the problem. Even in the United States, what I'm more worried about getting robbed inside a state park than I am here at all. I mean, this is United States is a lot more dangerous from a theft point of view than here, because we're in a community here, like in Orland, when I'm in a community, the chance of theft is really low because everybody knows everybody, and they're going to snitch on each other, right? But when you get into an anonymous campsite, you can get robbed. But so it's about what? It's 200. It's 4 times more expensive to camp than it is to live in a private room. So these are things to think about when you're sitting in California, or you're sitting in New York City or Atlanta, Georgia, or Chicago or Miami, and saying, I have to pay $1,400 a month for rent, and I can go live in all utilities included for $200 outside the United States in 200 countries. And this is, how much fun are you having? How much do you enjoy your life? Now, I'm writing a book and I'm having a lot of fun. There's some things that I'm working on. Uh, One of the things I've been trying to do for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years is do consulting for hotels, and they really don't want it, okay? But I found out, I think the reason why they don't want consulting, I can tell them all the problems with their hotel, but really what they want is a solution. So they want somebody to come in and not only identify the problems, but solve the problems. So I've been buying a set of tools. I got a cordless drill. I got a screwdrivers, pliers, some different scraping tools that I've been remodeling one of the rooms I'm living in right now, in a sense. And there's things that are glossary or, you know, eye candy, like adding pictures and hanging things and arranging things that a lot of hotel owners don't want to do, especially in the bed and breakfasts. You can see in a bed and breakfast that to call in a worker could cost you $150. And if they just got an extra room, they can give me a room for free. I rented a room in LaSalle House in Fort Wayne for $300 a month. Just a little orphan room. It was so small that nobody really wanted to rent it, but it was great for me. And I am amazed how fast, high speed the internet was in the United States. The internet and this is a problem too, if I go to the United States, am I going to have Wi-Fi coverage inside the park? There's so many dead spots inside the United States. I think my best option is still to go for the guest house. I've got two places to live inside the United States. And there's a man in Tennessee that was inviting me to there, but I don't know what happens to these, it's hard to have an ongoing conversation with a lot of people. It's always like everybody's so busy that they can't have a continuous conversation. And but I'm going to see about this guy in Tennessee that, he's got a really small little town. I really would like to live in a place with less than, say, 15,000 people. The bigger the city, the bigger the problems, right? And if I'm going to live in New York City, somebody's going to have to give me just an ideal situation, because the amount of the leakage cost is so high. Everything you touch costs money. Okay. You get on a bus, you get on a thing, you walk down the street, everything costs money. And then you're always in a little bit of worry because what if I get mugged? I'm not really fond of the idea of having to worry about getting mugged in my own country. And New York City, Chicago, there's so much violence and crazy stuff. And I've learned by going to Costa Rica 2 times in the last 3 or 4 years, that I do not like to see homeless people living in boxes. I definitely do not like that. I'm going to go stay in Monterey, but I don't think I'm going to have to see that. But I think I can drive and see it, which is okay. I don't mind being a tourist to this kind of poverty and this kind of dereliction of, just a loser mentality, right? And but I want to understand what's going on in the United States, and I would try to be in the United States anytime the weather's good, okay? And I'm looking for guest rooms where people invite me to come there, and anybody that's even slightly thinking about moving abroad is a valuable thing, because I can mix and match and tell you all the pros and cons of almost every single live abroad location on the planet. There's a what do you call it, a parasailing guy up there right now. It's been kind of cloudy. I can't really go to the lake because it doesn't make it any difference. It's just cloudy all the time. It's been really haze hanging over. But right now you can hear that construction noise, and the construction is probably I don't know. There's always construction in a lot of these countries. I miss Africa. I really miss Africa, but the long-term plan, so right now I'm going to go on November 11th. I fly to Medellin, Colombia, hang around for a few days, then I go to the Darien Gap, and I try to figure out how to go through this. There's all sorts of gossip, and I don't think any of it's real, but maybe I could just go through it in 2 days. It's only 60 miles, right? And 60 miles is a 1-day trip, about 4 hours normally. You can average about 30 miles an hour in most of the countries in Central and South America. You can average more if you have a private car, but then it becomes much more dangerous because a private car, the police can pull you over and rob you. Okay, but I like to be in big vehicles. The bigger the vehicle, like the bigger the bus, the safer it is. The less likely you. I used to always, when I first started traveling, they would take buses in Mexico. They pull them all over, put them into the woods, take off all their clothes, take all their backpacks, steal absolutely everything. It happened all the time. And it used to be a lot of, I think right now we have a mafia controlling the transportation in Guatemala. And I think the mafia is controlling the transportation in Mexico. And they've made it safer because the mafia can actually enforce the rules. And sometimes you think that the mafia is a bad thing, but sometimes the mafia is a good thing. I kind of think that Huatulco, Mexico is absolutely controlled by the mafia. They set up a development area and just developed and they basically get rid of all the riffraff. Okay, so life is good. I'm writing this book and I'm going to write I'm going to write a series of 7 books, and it's about how to live the good life. Because the minute you leave your house, it's the skill sets you learn by leaving your house. And it means that you can go anywhere from just down the street to, the other side of the planet. And all the skill sets are coming to it. And I'm going to prioritize the books in order of what is required. So the first book's going to be called Sorting It Out, A Sorted Life, meaning that if you got it sorted, okay, meaning that what you need to have sorted to be able to start leaving your house. A lot of people should never leave their house because it's the only bubble that is safe for them. But anybody can travel the world, absolutely anybody. It's a matter of time. You got to slow down the world to the level at which you can handle the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, money problems. But traveling the world is 5 times cheaper than living in the United States. So there's no reason to sit there and suffer in the United States watching YouTube all day and having no friends. That's just really not the life. Most of the world is pretty gregarious. The 200 countries, the normal countries on the planet are still relatively one step above subsistence farming, and they're just getting industrialized, and they're not having this mass employment of factories. It's still, most industry here is less than 12 people. Anything more than 12 people, and normally you have to go in partnership with the mayor, right? I'm not kidding. Aid organizations and missionaries and stuff is the #1 way to make money for expats abroad. And it's kind of sad because everybody is defining countries as poor, and they're not. Okay, Guatemala is a lot richer than Costa Rica. Okay, I mean, for sure, it's much better off than Nicaragua, Costa Rica. I don't know about El Salvador. I mean, El Salvador is a question mark. But they're using dollars, and the dollars helps investment, and Panama. But I think the violence in these 2 countries is a lot higher. But the president of El Salvador has been cleaning up the thing. I think he put 400 gang members in jail. So he's doing a good job. And Argentina's doing a good job. They got a president that has a sense of understanding of what's going on in the world. I am ashamed of the politics in the United States. They have broken down the rule of law. Therefore, we are going to become a 3rd world nation. That's actually kind of an insult. We're going to become an underdeveloped country. We're going to become one of the 200 normal countries because we'll dilute the culture of success to have a culture of anything goes, no rule of law, and there just doesn't seem to be any enforcement, and it's going to implode. Okay, you can't have illegal people sucking off the economy. How many people can we afford to pay for? How many people on welfare can we afford before the economy collapses? It's just a matter of time. And the inflation used to be, and the big deal is the cost of living in the United States is 250 times more than a lot of countries in Africa. 250. In the 1400s, it was only 4 times more. Now it's 250. So the spread, the rich get richer and the poor get richer, isn't really true, but the idea that the rich countries are costing more and the poor countries are cheap, so this spread is growing. And so there's, the multinationals will eventually use solar panels and wind, solar, and nuclear, and put all their factories in, I don't know, northern Africa. I mean, why would you? I mean, they're going to have these little islands. I'm actually thinking that they ought to have this big tents. They could make tents and have factories inside tents. They don't need all this overhead. Okay, but I'm Andy Lee Graham. I've traveled to 114 countries, and I have this Patreon. And the Patreon is a way to say, for people that want to have me continue to tell the truth. That's what it's for. But the first level is, the ability to write me emails and know that I'm probably going to reply. The $25 one, the $5 one is to emails. The $25 is kind of an emergency thing where you could call me when you have problems. And the hope is that I become friends with all my Patreons. And then the $100 one is for when people really want me to come visit them, okay? And there's a stand-up type level there where for the $100. Then you have the $500, $400. I don't know what I did. I think I got a $500 one. But that's really to say, Andy, use your money and make the world a better place. Use this money and make the world a better place, because that is my goal. My goal is to be a good example on how to be a human, how to live within my means, how to treat people, how to have respect people, how to have limits. And this book I'm writing is going to be real interesting because I've already got like 30 different categories, and it's kind of the minimum way of looking at the world, things that you need to do to go out and travel around and feel safe. And it's all about safety, because anybody, if you feel safe, you will make the decision to go do something. If you don't feel safe, you'll stay in your house. I'm Andy Lee Graham. Camping inside the United States, $400, and that's not cost. So I'm $800 a month. Oh man, that means I'm thinking about eating more food here so I can stock on about an extra 10 pounds so I don't have to eat while I'm in the United States. But it's not going to save much. The food cost of living in the United States is actually cheaper than Guatemala. I can eat better and cheaper inside the United States because I go to the grocery stores and the cost of food is so competitive. Although it might be more natural here. Everything's free range. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. Hit that subscribe button and become a Patreon and have the ability to meet me and talk to me. And I'm not going to ignore you when I do meet you.